evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Beneath Your Skin. Today, because we hate each other so much, we decided to watch both The Exorcist number 4 and 5. They are basically the same movie, but one is a lot worse than the other. And nice little fact I will tell you now is that the fifth movie was supposed to come out first, but then the producer rewatched it and they decided, no, you know what, we have to redo this movie because this is going to be so bad. No one is going to come to theaters to watch it. And they were right. For once, they were right.
Yes.
So they made the fourth, what is now the fourth movie of the whole saga. And it was a little bit better. It was watchable. Not a great movie, but it was watchable. But we are going to go straight into our salty bitching about these two movies after we tell you this is Gaia and still around, even if the madness of the world is getting worse and worse. And hi Zoe, how are you doing?
Doing okay. Yeah, the world is mad, and the UK is having a bit of a heat wave. It was like it went from 3 degrees to 18 degrees, which for us Brits is a bit like, whew, we're all in t-shirts and shorts, but obviously we can't go anywhere. So it's like, oh my god, 18 degrees, whew, I'm in a vest top. Like, hey, yeah. But yeah, and then I just watched these two movies back to back. I did it 4 hours straight, back to back. And I have to tell you, never do this, people. Never. If you have to watch one, watch Exorcist the beginning. Because you know what? The producers were right. Dominion is awful. It's so bloody boring. And doesn't even have... It's not even like Pazuzu in it. They changed the demon in it. They changed the actual figure of the demon. At least with the beginning... They put the statue of Pazuzu in it, and he's going to look for that ancient relic that they find at the beginning of the Exorcist movie. And there's other little bits, like in the beginning, Father Merrin drinks, and he says that line. He goes, "Oh, I shouldn't, but I've always been weak of will," which is the exact same line he says when he's offered a drink in the original Exorcist. So, they kind of like, but Dominion... Nothing to do with The Exorcist. It wasn't even to do with freaking Pazuzu. Like, it was just batshit and boring and really not scary. And it's hard to talk about them without comparing them. But I watched the beginning, and actually, the first hour of the beginning, I was hooked. I was like, it was quite well filmed. It had that great start with like that one priest and everyone dead, and you were like, whoo. And then it had that little central mystery of like, wait a minute, if they're burning people, then who's in the graves? And there's something kind of not right about the young priest. Then there's a creepy dude who's growing boils on his face, and you're like, why are you growing boils in his face? And then there's like, the church is all like, really poorly lit and damaged, and upside down cross, and then there's a hidden lair. So you're kind of like intrigued. The kid is, you're clearly like, oh my god, that kid is possessed, and because it sets a load of really bad CGI hyenas. They could have done without the CGI hyenas. They were really poorly done. But on his brother, because the brother steals something, it had all the good tropes of a possession film. And it was going, it could have certainly done without the frigging Nazis. It didn't need the Nazis in it. We didn't need to know this massive backstory that Father Merrin was once a priest in Poland or something. I'm like, why? Why are you in Poland? Your Father Merrin. But they needed a way for him to lose his faith, because you can't have an Exorcist movie without someone losing faith. And you also have to have the mental asylum stuff, which actually on this one, at least it was kind of short and sweet. He goes there and it's a dead end because the dude literally goes, ha ha ha, I'm watching you, I'm dead now. But... I was following it, and I was into it for the longest time. I didn't really like the romance thing, because in my head, Merrin wouldn't go after a girl. But then, when the twist came, I was like, oh, I get why that, because now she's like, do you want to fuck me, and all the and the makeup wasn't very good, but she looked like, possessed Reagan. It was the iconic look of, and the exorcism. It went a bit balmy towards the end, and I was a bit like... just I think it got by me because like the military turned up and then the tribe turned up and then they were having a war and there was like ta 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 bang 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 and I'm like, where have I suddenly turned into like Call of Duty Africa? And it was just like whoa whoa whoa, and then but I liked the ending because the ending was like saved the kid, came out. Everybody's dead, so there's no one to tell the story, and therefore Merrin just goes off to continue his search for like where Pazuzu might have ended up next. So I started watching the second film. Sorry, I start watching the second film, and I'm sitting there going, "That's the same scene that was in the first film." It's and it starts exactly. They even have footage, the same footage, except for this time the military turn up sooner. The weird, creepy dude with the boils that turned out to have flies in them wasn't in it anymore. They recast the doctor, and she was no longer like a love interest, and then it just went off. And then so for the first bit, it was like, oh yeah, wonderful, like it's exactly the same. There's no difference. And then it deviated to its own story. And its own story was rubbish.
Yes, I totally agree. I enjoyed the first one. It was watchable. I liked some things in the first movie. I particularly liked Father Francis because you knew since the beginning he was the perfect Jesuit. He was there. He was so kind and sweet and a beautiful face full of love for God, and you knew he was hiding something because usually Jesuits are like exactly like that. I mean, I don't know if you people ever had the chance to see Jesuits around in your cities. They are very well dressed. All of them are beautiful. All of them are tall and beautiful and young. I don't know what they do with the ugly people who want to become Jesuits. Probably they are being killed or something, or hidden somewhere where no one is ever going to see them. But they are, you see a Jesuit and you see power. So you knew Father Francis was hiding something because the story. I was ready to become a missionary, but the Vatican asked me to come here instead, and I am so honored to work with you. I read all your books. I know who you are. And at first, you are like, okay, you are in love with Father Merrin, and he's going to break your heart. And that's exactly what he does, because when he say, I'm not a priest anymore, I don't belong to the church anymore, and blah, 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 you can see Father Francis is so sad in that moment, and you are like, Merrin, please, don't break the heart of the young priest. But yeah, there is something wrong with him. So, okay. The beginning of the movie, honestly, left me a little bit perplexed, because I have an history degree. And when movies open and I can't recognize the historical moment you want to represent, I get a little bit confused. And I'm like, okay, why there is a priest dressed middle-aged cloth of a priest, and then you look around and there are people dressed like Roman soldiers?
Yes, I thought that too. I thought they were Romans.
Why?
Like, but
exactly.
the Romans aren't Catholics. So then I started thinking, did the Romans and the Crusaders ever fight? But wait a minute, no, the Crusades were long after the Romans. I'm
exactly.
like, wait, what? So I just...
And then you realize they are talking about the Byzantine Empire. And you are like, okay, no, you have lost me.
Yeah.
Why? Byzantium never arrived in Africa. And you are like, okay, no, okay, let's go on. Let's go on.
It was a cover-up. It was hidden from the, yeah. I was like, of course, yes, no one ever found out. It was so well buried.
So, okay, let's go on. And we arrived to this church. And first, they arrived to the mission, and then to the church, or first to the church and then to the mission. I can't remember. And but I like how the welcome party is there at the mission. You arrive by car and you drive through nothing, basically, and you see a huge graveyard full of crosses, and you learn that 50 years ago there was a plague that killed everyone. And you are like, wait a moment, if the plague killed everyone, who filled the graves in the graveyard? This is not going to end well. So, yeah, we go on, we see the beautiful church that was perfectly intact, like it was built yesterday. And you go inside, and that was beautiful. The iconography inside the church was beautiful. All those angels that were represented exactly for what angels were born to be, warriors. And they have spears and swords, and they are ready to fight. That's beautiful. And then you see the paintings on the ceiling and on the walls, and you see Lucifer. Why Lucifer? I mean, in the second movie we find out that the church was named after Saint Michael. Of course it was. He was the one who threw Lucifer out of heaven, after all, so it makes sense. It doesn't make sense to have a huge picture of Lucifer himself in a church. And Father Marin say, you don't see anything like this if not in the Vatican. No, you don't see anything like this even in the Vatican, because Lucifer is never represented in his humanoid form. Lucifer is always represented like the beast, like something ugly, not like something beautiful. He has lost his beauty the moment he revolted against God. So there is no way you can see a picture of him in which he is beautiful, because that will go against everything that Catholic iconography always told us about Lucifer himself. So, but the iconography is beautiful, because then you turn and there is the upside down cross. That scene is really powerful, and Father Francis' reaction is as powerful as the scene itself. So it's enjoyable. You start to think, okay, yeah, uh, too too many Nazi, too many
Yeah.
Nazi. I mean, too many characters with a past history with Nazis. But really, both of them, I mean, it's very powerful. Sarah's background story with the Nazis is powerful. You can even accept it. I mean, we know what they did to many women in the camps, so it makes sense that they did it to her, because she was the daughter of someone who dared to go against them. So it's very possible that they were even more evil and crueler with her. Makes sense. But there is too much background history related to the Nazis, because this movie is not about the Nazis. It should be about Father Mary losing his faith, finding Pazuzu, and finding back his faith.
Yeah.
This should be the development of the character. But no. So I have a little something, because I was so bored at the end of the second movie.
Oh,
I had
God.
to write. I had to write. So, what are those two movies about? Evil, Nazis. Nazis being more evil than the devil. Some more Nazis. A church that shouldn't be there. Pazuzu, more Nazis. Hyenas, some more Nazis. So we don't forget about them. The British Army, because why not? Parrots, we missed some cliche. Plague, that was not plague, but we will call it that. Full graveyard, but the tribe living there doesn't bury their dead. Everybody died because of the non-plague. So who the fuck digged those graves in the graveyard? Some more Nazis. Basically, this is the movie.
Yeah.
And I personally enjoyed the revelation, because after you see Father Marin basically digging his way to Australia, because he spent the whole night digging a hole in the graveyard. So you think he's going to find oil, or he's
Yeah.
going to go straight to Australia, because really you spend the whole night digging, okay? And he finds out that the graves are empty.
Dun, dun, dun.
It was all a cover up created by the church, because the church is this almighty organization that controls everything. So, and we find out that the church knows something else that no one else knows. And Father Francis dropped the bomb on poor Father Marin, and he's like, this is the place where Lucifer fell. Oh my God,
Yeah.
no, please, really? Really? Okay. And then we have, I'm sure you now understand, this is the moment we have lost the plot.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a shame. It really was a shame, even because at some point, like in the beginning of the movie, we realized that there is a madness going on every more. It's like a circle.
Mm.
After sometimes, this madness returns in this place, and it causes a lot of dead and bad things. So the battle at the beginning where everyone died, and then we know the so-called plague that wasn't the plague, everyone died. And now the tribe against the British army, where everyone will die, of course. We don't understand why, but we know something, because at some point Father Marin finds the reason why the church was built there and then buried as soon as the building was done. So we find out there is a Pazuzu statue there. And then we realize something else. Pazuzu is a traveling statue,
Yes.
because we are in Africa, and Father Marin will find Pazuzu again in Iraq. So apparently Pazuzu walks around because he gets bored, and he's like, okay, you know what, I don't want to stay here anymore, let's go somewhere else. And you can imagine this statue, this huge rock statue, walking away with no one noticing, of course, and no one caring. And he's like, yeah, I can stay here for a few centuries. And suddenly there is a new statue in a new place that people are, oh, this was probably here since forever. No,
No.
it just arrived, but you don't worry. It's just an ancient demon. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is what I liked about this film, was some of the ideas that it put forward that kind of left stuff to your imagination to, like, interpret. Like, I thought, it's an Exorcist film. There should be a priest losing, like, faith and then finding it again at the end. There's meant to be a mental institute, and then there's meant to be an exorcism and a possessor. And it had all the tropes. But I liked the idea that they think this church is like, oh, it's a church, it's amazing, when really actually the church is more like a crypt, and it was built to hide the fact that Pazuzu's there, and Pazuzu's like leaking out evil energy. And I love the idea that it leaks out this evil energy, it causes everyone to go mad, it causes, like, an event, and it was a small tribe, so when they died off, it had to wait for it to build up, and then it saw its opportunity when the soldiers turned up of going, haha, I can cause another event. So I kept thinking in my head, like at the end of the movie, now Merrin knows that Pazuzu works like that, so he knows that Pazuzu's off, and will now spend the next 30 years travelling the globe to try and track Pazuzu down again. And then, finds him in Iraq, and then Pazuzu disappears from Iraq and ends up obviously in America. And then, he spends another 30 years and finally, like, reunited, and that's, like, been his goal. But there was things like the creepy guy that fancied Sarah, and he was slowly being corrupted, and there was flies inside him, and that was really gross. And then there was the poor woman that gave birth to, like, the baby covered in maggots. Gross. Actual, like, They were horrific horror movie things that were gross and creepy and violent. Even when they were doing like little scenes like Joseph's bed moving, as if like they were kind of like that. That looked like a demonic possession scene. That was like there's something underlyingly evil in this place. You get a sense of it. Yes, there are CGI hyenas, which are awful. And then you go in the thing and it's the birds are eating the birds, and you're like, that's gross. And then when there's a revolution of like Maggot Face has disappeared, but there's blood everywhere, and you find out that Maggot Face has been strung up down in the like gallows, and the birds have been eating him, and there's all the like little feathers are floating around. I'm like, that is like a good piece of iconography. They're well staged, well set, well, like there's sense of yucky. I mean, I was never really scared, but I was certainly grossed out and had to look away a few times. Even like the exorcism and the twist that it was her. Like the church are covering up their own like, shit, but she's obviously got her own secrets, and Pazuzu possesses her, and therefore I didn't see that coming. I was convinced that it was in Joseph all the time. And yeah, it goes a bit silly towards the end, which is a shame. Because, it was well filmed, well acted, interesting, added some good things to the lore. The stuff of the Nazis, you could have taken all of that out. If you wanted to show that Merrin had a bit of trauma in him, just literally have the film have that the people are all getting sick from an unknown plague, and so many of them are dying. He starts losing his faith because he's been sent there for the archaeology thing, or don't he's been sent there because the missionary has asked for a priest and he volunteers to go out there, and he's seeing all this death, and then a friend or something dies or something, and he loses his faith, but then he gets it back at the end of the movie because there's a line in the second film where the guy is like, oh, is this what God would have wanted? Like, is this how it treats the people that, like, worship it? And it's like, they should have had Merrin going through, like, people are dying because of this crazy virus that's really evil, killing people. He loses his faith then and there. Then he gets it back, but he's now aware that through, I don't know, some kind of plotting, he realises that Pazuzu, there's more than one crypt of Pazuzu. So he becomes an archaeologist to go and hunt Pazuzu. So you cut out the Nazis, and this film is how he becomes the archaeologist priest at the same time.
Yeah, that would have been beautiful, but no, we needed the Nazis.
Yeah.
Because apparently you can make an Exorcist movie without Nazis now.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. And then Dominion is the same film, but a lot weaker. It's a lot weaker.
Boring. So
and
boring.
Weaker.
And weaker.
I mean,
no scaling bits. No gross bits.
Nothing. And what's worse is that the power of the beginning of the possession scene is that Pazuzu is spraying on children. No, here he is spraying on someone who is already a pariah from the tribe because he was born with a weak arm and a weak leg, the boy Cheche. So he was, the people believed he was cursed, so they send him away, possibly to die alone. And that's not powerful enough because he was already an outcast.
Yeah.
So why to prey on an outcast? When Pazuzu in the first movie preyed on Joseph, that was powerful. Because Joseph was loved. He had a brother, he had a father, he was loved. He was a member of the mission and a member of the tribe. So he belonged to both worlds. Chechen doesn't. He is an outcast already, so why the hell to even bother with him?
The whole Che thing, because it's that usual stigmatism against like people with disabilities and learning needs and stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, he's acting like that because he's got special needs rather than like just being possessed. But it was just like, I mean, it was just dull, but it was just like, oh, the kid is slowly being more possessed and every now and again, and has the wrong eyes. Pazuzu has the yellow eyes, and this demon has the red eyes. So it's not Pazuzu at all. I was really upset when
No,
they go into the church and they change the insides of the church. I was like, it's better lit, and then there's nicer art, and the cross isn't upside down anymore. And I'm like, and there's that, and it's all jeweled, and there's a bit of grave robbing going around when the soldiers break in and steal some jewels, and then they die. And I'm like, pointless, all pointless plot, but it's all like, yeah, jeweled and nice and clean and stuff. So they don't even go and find the hidden cave of Pazuzu in it anymore. They just hang out in the church that doesn't
no,
even look as
no.
good.
There is a tomb outside the church where we find an angel striking down someone with red eyes.
Ah, yeah. But
So
that's
it's really. I mean, I hate when movies are so sure that the audience is dumb that they literally tell you step by step what is going to happen.
yeah.
I hate that because I am an old beachy lady, but I'm not dumb.
No.
So I know how to watch a movie without the need of people telling me what will happen the next scene. I want to find out alone. So no, it was very boring. I liked in the beginning. I liked the exorcism scene, the beginning of the exorcism scene, at least when Father Karras uh, brings Sarah close and he crossed his forehead with holy water, and he puts his forehead against Sarah's forehead, and it burns her because she's being possessed already and Pazuzu can't stand holy water. I like that because it was powerful. That was Father Marin really beginning his fight against Pazuzu, and we don't need the old village chief in Dominion telling Father Karras that now Pazuzu choose him as his enemy. We already know that.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning scene when they fight. Pazuzu realizes this man is going to be his enemy. This man must die because he will never stop hunting him down. We already knew that. We didn't need someone telling us that. That's what I mean when I say I hate movies that will tell me things that are obvious.
Yeah.
So, and then a triumph of bullshit and madness,
Oh God.
because at some point the sky turns red. Oh yeah, really? I already read this in one book. Wait, let me think. What book could be? The Bible. I think I read that in the Bible and more than once. So it's not new. And people start to try to kill themselves, or they begin the fight, and we finally find out who Cheche is possessed by, and it's total bullshit because the scene
Absolutely.
in which it looks like Ra in Stargate.
Yes. Yes.
He looks more like an alien than a possessed person,
It's
but
just
okay,
so
you
pale and like God, all beautiful and shaven
He's
head.
beautiful. He's beautiful, and he has this shiny golden light all around him. And he comes out from behind the statue or whatever, and he's like, "I am perfection." So you are telling me that's actually Lucifer?
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
my god!
See, this is the thing, is that because the statue had changed in Dominion, and it was the statue, it was one of the Lucifer, because it's like goat demon pentagram thing. And it's like, no, this is an Exorcist movie. Merrin has always fought against Pazuzu. Are you trying to imply that he fought Lucifer once and then he fights Pazuzu later? No, that's not my headcanon. My headcanon is this guy has been searching to defeat this one enemy since ancient times, and then Pazuzu is not a biblical like demon. Pazuzu is ancient. Pazuzu is because Africa's the cradle of life. All life and evolution came from Africa. So it's not surprised that the first supernatural things and the first demons would have been there because that's where the first man was. And we probably wouldn't have as many demons if mankind wasn't running around making pacts with them and doing crappy things that makes demons go, well, they're just as bad as us sometimes. Let's keep tempting them, until like all chaos breaks loose because that's all they want. They just want chaos on Earth. And it's just like, suddenly we're like, no, he's fighting Lucifer. And bad floating CGI, like special effects. He's just sitting in his little loincloth, floating around with like, and it looks so fake. And I'm like, why is he flying? Why is Che flying around the screen?
Not only that, but
Oh.
are we really saying that Lucifer would just possess an outcast boy to mess up with the priest? I mean, Lucifer has the same power as God himself. That's why he fell, because he wanted to be God. So if God sent his son in a human body to save humanity, we can think that Lucifer will send someone close to him in a human body to doom humanity.
Yes.
He won't come here himself. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
I mean, Lucifer is a fallen angel. He fell willingly. He's not a demon. Technically, he's not a demon. So Father Merrin wouldn't have any way to defeat Lucifer.
No.
And as you said, Father Merrin is against Pazuzu. He spent his whole life trying to fight and defeat Pazuzu. So we didn't need to see him fighting against a flying alien outcast boy, and then that at some point disappears.
Yes, turns into sand and just kind of disappears, and you're like, huh? So it wasn't really your body at all? Like, because he turns up at the end working back in the hospital, and I'm like, huh? Like, this is making no sense. I mean, I always assumed that, like all angels, they kind of have a bit of a beef with humanity because humanity became God's favourite children. And Lucifer's a fallen angel, so he has a bit more of a beef. And it's his job to send an antichrist to do the opposite of Christ and, tempt people and because you can't have good without evil. I don't think that Lucifer is inherently evil, but I think that's his role. And likes to mess up things and but also has a full-time job ruling the underworld. I always think of the same like Hades. I don't think Hades is evil. I think Hades' job is to rule the dead, and but not doesn't make you evil just because that's it's like lawyers that defend serial killers. They're not evil because they defend them. It's their job and someone has to do it, and they've taken that on to just some people take on the jobs other people don't want to do. So Lucifer would not randomly go, hey, look at this outcast child in the middle of Africa. I'm going to possess it. What's more likely to happen is one of the ancient demons from millennia ago that was born in the cradle of life of the first humanity is going to have been there for so long, corrupting it, then sees Westerners coming over for the first time, then sees Christians for the first time and thinks, ha, there is more to the world and there are different ways to corrupt people, and basically goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to fuck them all over, and then I'm going to escape because there's a whole world out there that I could be and eventually I want to get to the peak of civilization, which in the Western world is pretty much America because it's the biggest population and it's just seen as one of the, and you can see a clear journey. If you were just a cave-dwelling demon that used to be feared and worshipped by locals, and you'd never seen white people before, and suddenly some white archaeologist turns up, you make one of them go mental, then some Christian missionaries turn up, and you're like, not only are these white people that are different from the people I've been torturing for centuries, they've got a whole other religion that I can manipulate and try and go, right, oh, you believe in God, but what's God doing for you? And then that's how Pazuzu escapes into the world and ends up in Iraq. Because, that part of the world, the Middle East, has been full of conflict. And then, then finally goes to America. Yeah.
Not only that, Pazuzu visited the many places where civilizations were born and grew in power.
Yeah.
So everything was born from Africa. Then the Middle East became the center of the world because many ancient civilizations were born in the Middle East, important ones.
Yeah.
And then he moved to America. Probably they never thought about making an Exorcist movie with Pazuzu moving to Greece.
Yeah, it should have gone to
Because
Europe
that,
first, because Pazuzu
exactly,
would have gone
first
to Europe.
Europe and then America. But it makes sense. The journey, his journey makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the whole saga of movie that doesn't make any sense.
No, no.
So,
We have created a wonderful canon, like, what should happen next. Like, yeah, you oh,
yeah, they failed. They
felt so.
failed. They totally failed. I don't know why, but they did. The whole saga was an epic fail.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely bits of merit in the third one for some of the acting in those scenes in the cell. And,
Yes.
I like the idea of the serial killer coming back from the dead and possessing someone and messing with someone's head. There are merits in the fourth one because there are some good ideas in that. You take out all the Nazi stuff and just have, like, the crisis of faith going on in this town that's slowly going mad, you know. And you kind of make the ending a little bit less weird and wacky. And you just, yeah, five and two can just be eradicated from the timeline. And maybe, three
Yeah.
shouldn't have been an Exorcist movie, should have been its own movie. And
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, that would have worked. Yeah, that would have worked.
yes,
So people, we basically saved the first one, of course, a little bit of the third, and a little bit of the fourth. We would love to know what you think. So if you want to join us and let us know, we will be happy to hear from you. You can use our website on Pinecast. You just have to look for Beneath Your Skin, and you can sorry follow us on Spotify. We have a Twitter account at beneath_your, and we have a Facebook page, Beneath Your Skin, and we have a Tumblr account, Beneath Your Skin 2020. So if you want to let us know, we will be happy to hear from you. And if Zoe doesn't have anything else to say,
no, I am ready to move on from this now.
people, you should see her face right now. She is the embodiment of a woman who has had enough of this whole saga. She is trying not to kill anyone, and she's only still out of jail because she can't go out.
Yep.
So the world is safe just because we are all in lockdown. Thank you so much for following us and for listening. And hopefully, we will see you again during the next episode. And thank you so much for listening, and bye bye.
As always, it's a pleasure doing these, but more of the pleasure, I think, is us being salty about them. It was not a pleasure watching some of these, and I hope this means that people maybe avoid some of these movies now that we've watched them for them. But I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I look forward to talking about some movies that don't make me want to erase the last couple of hours of my life. So for now, bye-bye.